Welcome and thank you for standing by. During this webinar, all attendees are in a listen-only mode. Today's webinar is being recorded and the recording will be posted publicly. If you have any objections, you may disconnect at this time. Now, I'd like to turn the event over to Kim Brown. Kim, you may begin.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on Your Community by the Numbers, Ancestry, and the Foreign-Born Population. My name is Kim Brown, and I'm a training specialist here at the Census Bureau. I want to thank you for joining us today for the Back to Data Basics webinar series. This series was created by the Census Academy team here at the Census Bureau. You can register for any of the webinars at the Census Bureau homepage. Just visit census.gov/academy. We think these webinars will be a valuable opportunity for you to learn from our experts about how to access and utilize a variety of Census Bureau data, products, tools, and resources. Before I introduce today's speaker, let's go over a few housekeeping rules. As mentioned earlier, this webinar is being recorded. For your convenience, it will be posted to our Census Academy site within 30 business materials, including the PowerPoint slide. In terms of how to ask questions during the webinar, you can submit your written questions using the Q&A panel, which is at the bottom center or the right side of your WebEx screen. Please take a moment to locate that now. Once you've found the Q&A panel, make sure you choose All Panelists from the drop-down menu. This will ensure we see your question. Don't send your question to an individual panelist. Also, we ask that you do not include any personal or business identifiable information with your questions. Now, let's talk about the chat panel. Look for that on your screen now. It's probably right next to the QA panel. Definitely keep that chat panel open also, because this is where we will provide key links and other resources. Keep in mind, you won't be able to respond to the chats. Chat is just for us to send you links and other resources. In the chat box, we will be sharing through the webinar the link for our evaluation. We are very interested in hearing from you on how we're doing. My colleagues, Joe Cortello and Noemi Mendez, will be monitoring the QA panel. As time allows, we will answer your questions directly through the QA panel, or we will share your question with the presenters to respond to after the presentation. If we don't get to all your questions with a response during the webinar, we will post the questions and responses with the webinar materials within 30 business days. And lastly, near the end of the webinar, we'll put into the chat the link to our evaluation so that you can tell us how we did today. We want to make sure that we get your feedback. We're always looking to improve our training. As you know, we are in a virtual environment and sometimes technical difficulties might occur. If you are having issues, try a different browser. Please consider logging out and coming back into the session. Now, I would like to introduce our speakers, Monica Dukes and Alexandra Parker. Thanks again for being here. Alexandra, you may begin.
Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me well. I'm Alexandra Barker. This topic is near and dear to my heart. As long as I can remember my career at the Census Bureau, I've been working with data about foreign-born populations and ancestry data. So it's very exciting to be here today sharing a little bit of what I know with you. I am a manager for Census Academy, and I also a supervisor for the Data Dissemination and Training Program. Monica will share more information about those two programs with you soon. So I hope all goes well with this webinar. And again, if you have any questions, we'll be more than happy to answer. And stay tuned for the recording because we will be posting some extra resources, and I'm going to talk about them later, for you to use when you're analyzing your data along with the recorded webinar. So Monica, mic is yours.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining our Back to Basics webinar series. So our webinar today is entitled Your Community by the Numbers, Ancestry and Foreign-Born Population. Again, my name is Monica Dukes, and I am a data dissemination specialist with the U.S. Census Bureau. And I've been with the Census Bureau a little over 20 years and have worked in multiple roles within the Census Bureau, worked 2 decennial census, and again, now currently in my role as data dissemination specialist, I share information with the public about how to utilize and access data on census.gov. So I am one of the many data dissemination specialists available across the country to conduct training, presentations, and respond to data inquiries from data users. I am responsible for providing data services to individuals in the states of Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana. So to learn about who the specialists are serving your area, you can contact us at census.askdata@census.gov, and we will share this contact information again at the end of this presentation as well as via the chat. You can also learn all about our services and request training for your organization by visiting census.gov/academy. Our services are free of cost. So while at Census Academy, don't forget to check our data gems and courses. These short videos are a great way to learn how to access and use our data. So this webinar will last about 1 hour, and we will be taking questions at the end. So let's begin by reviewing the objectives for today's webinar. So today, you will learn about how the Census Bureau defines foreign-born and ancestry populations. You'll also learn about the Census Bureau programs and surveys that report foreign-born and ancestry data. And then lastly, you'll learn how to access key data products about foreign-born and ancestry groups more efficiently using data.census.gov. So now let's talk a little bit about the outline and how this will go today. There'll be a quick warm-up on foreign-born data, where we'll be getting a little participation from you, the audience. And then we have the section wrapping your head around census data, understanding definitions of foreign-born ancestry, race, and ethnicity. Where do these data come from? And we'll talk more about the ACS, or our American Community Survey. And our data available for all areas. We'll talk a little bit about our census geography. And then we'll have an online demonstration. So how can I access data about foreign and ancestry groups? And we'll be going live to our tools, data.census.gov. And as you can also see on the screen, we have a little fact here that 13.5% of the U.S. population is foreign-born, and this is of our 2020 ACS data, 5-year data set. So now we want to ask for a little bit of participation from you, the audience. And what I'm going to do is open up a poll that we have a question here. What are the top 5 foreign-born populations in the U.S. by place of birth? Just select which of those 4 answers you think are the correct answers, and then I will share what those correct answers are. So you have 30 seconds to complete this, so just go ahead and mark what you think the correct response may be. Okay. So I think that our 30 seconds have now passed. And now I'll share with you what those correct responses are. Okay. So you see here we have a graphic showing the top 5 foreign-born populations. The number one area that we have individuals by place of birth in the U.S. come from Mexico at 10,924,662 individuals. Next, we have India with 2,618,558 individuals. The third country would be individuals that are foreign-born are coming from China, and that's 2,184,189. Next, we have the Philippines, 1,967,140. And lastly, El Salvador at 370,579. Now, let me give you some of the results from that poll. It looks like everyone wasn't able to participate, but it looks like the response that got the most answers was item C. So the majority of you answered item C, which was the correct response, which was Mexico, India, China, the Philippines, and El Salvador. So thanks so much for your participation with that. And now we'll get back into the presentation. Okay, so as you can see here on this slide, we have some data about the foreign-born population in the U.S. over the last 50 years. So during those 50 years between 1960 and 2010, the foreign-born population of the U.S. has undergone a dramatic change in size, origin, and geographic distribution. So in 1960, this population represented about 1 in 20 residents, mostly from countries in Europe, who settled in the Northeast and Midwest. Today's foreign-born population makes up about 1 in 8 residents, mostly immigrants from Latin America and Asia, who have settled in the West and the South. So the decennial census and the annual American Community Survey allow us to trace the changes in the foreign-born population over time, as you can see in this infographic. So this next slide, again, is showing a little more information about the foreign-born population over the last 50 years. So the share of all foreign-born living in the United States was historically concentrated in the Northeast and Midwest regions. Until 1940, over 80% of all foreign-born in the United States resided in either of the two regions. The foreign-born population eventually followed the rest of the U.S. population, expanding to the South and West. By 2016, more than 2/3 of the foreign-born resided in the South or the West. So the share of foreign-born living in the South has arisen over time, while the share of foreign-born living in the West increased for decades until peaking in 1990. So let's talk about census terms and what those differences are. So as you can see here on the slide, we have several terms that the Census Bureau uses. The first is race, and there are several races that we include, which are white, Black, American, Indian or Alaska Native, Asian, detailed groups, or Pacific Islanders. So the Census Bureau collects race and ethnicity data according to the Office of Management and Budget Standards. And OMB defines race and ethnicity as two separate concepts. People of Hispanic or Latino origin may be of any race group. Collection is based on self-identification, and people may identify with one or more race groups. It is recognized that the categories of the race item include racial and national origin or sociocultural groups. People may choose to report more than one race to indicate their racial mixture. Next, we have Hispanic origin. So we have Hispanic, Latino, or Spanish origin with detailed groups, and again, they can be of any race and ancestry. So Hispanic origin can be viewed as the heritage, nationality group, lineage, or country of birth of the person's or the person's parents or ancestors before their arrival in the U.S. And the next term is foreign-born, and it's based on the place of birth. So, for example, if someone was born in Russia, Brazil, Bulgaria, and they could also be of any race, origin, and ancestry. And then the last term is ancestry, and respondents can have multiple ancestries. Again, they can be Brazilian, Russian, or Bulgarian. And we'll talk more about that on the next slide. So more about those terms. So more detail about the foreign and how the census defines it. The U.S. Census Bureau uses the term foreign-born to refer to anyone who is not a U.S. citizen at birth. So this includes naturalized U.S. citizens, lawful permanent residents or immigrants, temporary migrants such as foreign students, humanitarian migrants such as refugees or asylees, and unauthorized migrants. The Census Bureau collects data from all foreign-born who participate in its censuses and surveys, regardless of legal status. So unauthorized migrants are included in Census Bureau estimates of the total foreign-born population. However, it is not possible to tabulate separate estimates of unauthorized migrants or any other legal status category. Next, we'll talk about the definition for native-born. And the Census Bureau uses the terms native and native-born to refer to anyone born in the United States, Puerto Rico, a U.S. island area such as Guam, the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands, or the U.S. Virgin Islands, or abroad of a U.S. citizen parent or parents. And nativity status, again, refers to whether a person is native-born or foreign-born. And lastly, we have ancestry, which again refers to a person's ethnic origin or descent, their roots or heritage, or the place of birth of the person or the person's parents or ancestors before their arrival in the United States. So this is going to matter when you're looking at the data and deciding which of these terms is most closely related to what you would like to pull. And again, my colleague Alexandra will be going into more detail about that when she does the online demonstration. So now I want to talk more about where does the data come from. So the American Community Survey is where we get a lot of the foreign-born and ancestry data. It is the nation's most current, reliable, and accessible data source for local statistics on critical planning topics such as age, children, veterans, commuting, education, income, and employment. We survey 3.5 million addresses and inform over $675 billion of federal government spending each year. And the survey covers 40-plus topics, supports over 300 evidence-based federal government uses, and produces 11 billion estimates each year. Again, this survey provides data for social, economic, housing, and demographic data at many geographic levels for topics, again, such as age, commuting, income, employment, and so much more. The American Community Survey helps local officials, community leaders, and businesses understand the changes taking place in their community. The survey provides vital information on a yearly basis about our nation and its people. And the American Community Survey helps local officials, community leaders, and businesses understand the changes taking place in their community. So you'll also see on the slide that there are 3 key annual data releases from the American Community Survey. And this is also important when you're looking at the data. So we have 1-year estimates, and this is going to provide data for areas with populations of 65,000 or more. We also have 1-year supplemental estimates, and that's going to provide data for areas with populations of 20,000 or more. And then we have our 5-year estimate that's going to provide data for all other areas, so for all areas. Okay. Then talking more about where does this data come from. And you can see here on this slide that we have questions that are actually come from the ACS survey. And the Census Bureau currently collects ancestry data through, again, the American Community Survey. The ACS question on ancestry, which is, what is your ancestry or ethnic origin? As you can see on the slide, the text after the question provides examples of particular ethnic groups. So the response area for the question consists of 2 write-in lines in which respondents can report ancestry or ancestries with which they identify. So as you can see, question number 7 asks, where was the person born? Where was this person born? And you have the option to select in the United States. If not, you can mark outside of the United States, and then you can mark which country the person was born. Then we have question 8, is this person a citizen of the United States? Again, you have options here to say yes, born in the U.S., or yes, born in Puerto Rico, Guam, or the other Virgin Islands or Northern Marianas. We have yes, born abroad of a U.S. citizen, parent, or parents. And then lastly, the next question is yes, U.S. citizen by naturalization, and then they would input the year of naturalization. And then lastly, the answer, no, not a U.S. citizen. And then question 9 is when did this person come to live in the United States? And again, they will mark the year here. And then 13 is the question about ancestry. What is this person's ancestry or ethnic origin? And then again, this is where they would mark whether, for example, they're Italian, Jamaican, Dominican, Mexican, and so forth. Now, something that I want to point out is when you're looking for data, and you're looking for data specifically on foreign-born populations, you're looking for where a person is born. So when you're looking at the data, you will look specifically for a country. So, for example, you're looking for foreign-born individuals, you'll search for people born in Brazil. Next, if you're just looking for ancestry, you would note you're looking for Brazilian regardless of place of birth. So it can include immigrants and those born in the U.S. So those are details that we want to point out. And again, my colleague Alexandra will talk more about that during the online demonstration. So let's talk about what topics are available via the ACS. As you can see here, we have several topics covered under the ACS survey, which include social, demographic, economic, and housing data. And then there are several headings under that. And you can see under the social tab, a lot of the foreign-born and ancestry topics are listed there. So you can see we have ancestry, we have citizenship status. Also, we have language spoken at home, migration residence 1 year ago, place of birth, and year of entry. And these are all topics that could be related to the foreign-born populations or ancestry. So next, we're talking about, can I get data for my area? So geography is very important for the Census Bureau. And as you can see on the screen, we have several geographies highlighted. In the middle, you'll see a hierarchy of different geography levels, starting at the bottom, which is block, which is the lowest level of data that is available from the Census Bureau. And a block is not defined by population, and it's the smallest geographic level at which data are ever released. And this level is only available through our decennial census and not the American Community Survey. So keep that in mind. Then a block, which nets up into block groups, can range in population from 600 to 3,000 individuals or 240 to 1,200 housing units. Next up, population from there is a tract, and block groups nest into tracts. And a census tract ideally is 4,000 in population size, but can range from 1,200 to 8,000 individuals in size, or 480 to 3,200 housing units. And of course, tracts nest up in a county, state, or nation. And then we have the geographies that you see outside of those geographies listed in the middle, where you may or may not be able to get data for the populations that you're looking for. And again, my colleague will go more into that when she does the online demonstration. It's all going to depend on the size of the population that you're searching, and the data is coming from ACS. So depending on the population size of the foreign-born population or ancestry group that you're searching, the data may or may not be available at all geographic levels that you see on the slide. And again, you will see more examples of this once we move into the online demonstration, which we actually will be moving into now. So what I want to do is, this is the last slide of the presentation, which actually has our contact information. But now I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing and pass it over to my colleague Alexandra that will do the online demonstration to show you how to access the data.
Thank you, Monica. Let me just now share my screen with you guys. Give me 1 minute. I hope all of you can see that I am at the data.census.gov website. Please, if anyone cannot see this, just let me know. You should be able to see it right now. So what we're going to do right now is access the data, you have all this great background that Monica gave you. And as we look through the data products available, you're going to see how it makes sense to have all the knowledge and how it makes so much easier for you to look at the tables that we'll be looking at, and not only to look at them, but to find them when you know where the data is coming from and the benefits and limitations of the concept of foreign-born and ancestry we'll be working with. So the first step is I'm going to take you into some foreign-born data, then we're going to go into ancestry data, and then we're going to go back at looking at ancestry and foreign-born together for one particular group. So I will start by using advanced search, but just a reminder, this is not a data.census.gov training. This is the tool we'll be using, so I won't be showing extensively all the features, and you'll be learning this from my perspective of how I use the system. But what we have learned over time is that different people use data.census.gov in a different way, and that's the beauty of the system. It really can adapt to your own way of searching for data. So let's start by clicking advanced search. And the reason why I'm using this method is just to show you some of the options that we have to find the topics. For the example we're going to look at today, I'm just going to select a state, but you could select any geography of your liking. Just keep in mind that because we're looking at particular groups, so we call them a universe, let's say the universe of foreign-born, or even more specific, a particular foreign-born group. Let's say persons born in India, that's a foreign-born group. We have thresholds and how much data can we give you. And the reason for that is we need to make sure that no one can be identified through the data and that the sample is large enough that it has quality to share with you the data. So we're going to see some instances where we may have issues with thresholds here. So I'm going to select Massachusetts, but if I'm selecting a small town with very little foreign-born population, some tables will be suppressed from your view. And the thing is, you only know if you try to get there and find that table. There's no list where you can see what table is suppressed for what geography, okay? So I'm just gonna go with the state and the state where I am, and I'm gonna go to Massachusetts. And I could select multiple states, multiple towns and counties to look at this data. I'm gonna start with the foreign-born data, which there are three ways you can find it. You can just type foreign-born in the search bar. You could type foreign-born on the advanced search search box here, or you can go into the filter menu and click on topics to look under the population and people folder, and you would find foreign-born. Just for this example, and for the few examples we're gonna work through, I'm just gonna use the advanced search to find my topics. So I'm gonna type foreign-born. Okay. Not filtering for me. No glitch I'm getting right here. 1 second. Hold on. Can I move anything? Great. Here we go. Go back here. Now it showed. Let me go again. Foreign-born. Seems just to be a little slow. Taking a little bit of time, so I'm just going to click in populations and people to be a little bit faster. And then I can go under the native and foreign-born folder and just find foreign-born. So that's what I'm looking for right now. Just keep in mind that within the selection of foreign-born, you also see tables about native and foreign-born at the same time. So you don't need to just go ahead and select this option. So I'm going to click on foreign-born, and I'm not going to go in any particular group right now. All I really want is foreign-born. So I'm just going to go with foreign-born, and that's all I'm looking for, and I'll click search. Okay. There are a variety of tables you can see about foreign-born population. The selected population profile in the United States is one we're going to see over and over. So let me show you what it looks like. So for Massachusetts, this is a profile of the foreign-born population as a whole, right? This could be your own geography. So you're going to get a lot of information from the 4 major areas that Monica referred to on the American Community Survey: social characteristics, economic, housing, and demographic characteristics. So you start with the demographic characteristics. I'm going to just go a little faster because I want to show you a lot of tables today. But as you look through them, you're going to see that it gets really rich in terms of information. Let me go down to another area that's not social. So you can see like school enrollment, education attainment, fertility, so foreign population having babies in the country, which I've used with a particular embassy because they're trying to determine how many babies were being born here from the foreign-born group, so they knew how many passports they would have to plan for that year, which was very neat research I did for them. But as you keep going in the profile, there's just so much rich information there. Here starts the economic part of the analysis for foreign-born population. So this is one of the things I want to show you. This table, we're going to be going over and back to this table for a few examples. I'm just going to delete the foreign-born information from here. I'm going to close this. And I'm going to just show by typing on the top here, foreign-born. And I'm just going to click enter. And my results now are going to offer me a table called DPO2. Keep those IDs in mind, like I said, DPO2, the F0101, those are really good IDs to keep in mind, and you can search directly for them on the search bar. So the DPO2 is not necessarily about the foreign-born population, but it's a very easy table to get to, because the truth is you don't even need to type foreign-born. Just by having any geography there, you can get to it. What is neat about it is when you go down to the area about foreign-born populations, there's right away off the bat great information from you. And this table, the beauty of it is you can go down to the tract level. So if you remember the geographic hierarchy Monica was presenting to you, it's a very small geographic area. So it's right above the block group. So you can really see these estimates for that small area in any part of the country. So let me go to the foreign-born area here. Oh, here we go. So first we start with residency 1 year ago. And right away, you can see how many people were living abroad 1 year ago. So you talk about recent arrivals in the country, recent immigrants. So this is a really good estimate here. Then we have place of birth, and keep this terminology in mind. Place of birth is the name of the country. So people who were born in the U.S., so we talk about native, or who were born abroad, according to the definition that Monica reviewed with you today. So the foreign-born population in Massachusetts estimated to be about 1.1 million of foreign-born people, according to the 2020 ACS 5-year estimates, right? If you want to change the estimates here to different years, you can do that if it's available for the table you're looking at. So this is one table I really recommend you take a look anytime you just need a quick number, because then you go to the citizenship status and you can look at how many are naturalized citizens among the foreign-born population, how many are not citizens in the area you select. Then we can look at year of entry, the more recent immigrants, those who entered before 2010. The only way to break this down further is to use something we call microdata, and you have to use a tool called MDAT, also available under the census, data.census.gov website. You can click here for microdata. And you can really recode and break down years so you can see, let's say, people by decade or by years before 2010. Now we have just a little bit more detail by region of the world. So you can see the sizes of the population based on region. So Latin America with almost 500,000. Then we have language, very little detail, but enough to give you an idea of how many people are speak English or not speak English at home, and if they're able to speak English very well or less than very well. And last, I want to show you just the ancestry part of this table. Not every ancestry group is listed here. There's a great number there are, so it's a great place to start your ancestry search. So again, this is the DPO2. All you need to do to get to it, honestly, is type a geography, select maybe 10 geographies, and it will show up for you. Our profiles, the data profiles, are the first tables that come with the search. Let me go back to filter. And we have, again, foreign-born in Massachusetts. You see that I don't have to add native-born here to get to a really good table I want to show you now. It's right here as F05001. So how do I know this table is that good? Well, I have done this research. I have looked through a lot of our tables, and I have selected the ones I find very helpful. That's something you can do, too. Just by entering the items and the elements, the variables on the filter, you'll see all the tables available, and you can look through. So I'm sharing with you by favorites. And honestly, I have a note on my cell phone with the table IDs on my favorite tables, because in the day-to-day, I just like to type them on the search bar and go with it. So let's look at this table, which is about native and foreign-born population. So a lot of discussions, right? Oh, who is more educated? Who is more unemployed? Foreign-born are likely to own a home more than the natives or not. So this is a table that can really help you with that. But I want to just talk a little bit about a caveat. First, let's look at the table. Let's get excited before I throw some limitations at you. So we're here with Massachusetts, and you have the total population, but you also have the native and the foreign-born. If this view is just too much for you, just know that with this tool, you can work on customizing what columns you see. You can hide columns, you can hide rows too. So with a foreign-born and native, what you get in terms of variables here is the same thing you saw on the DPO2. So it's very rich in terms of content. You're going to go through all the demographic characteristics. You're going to go through all the economic characteristics, all the housing. Let's go all the way down to housing because we haven't looked at housing yet. So here we are on income, and we have poverty status. You're going to get into housing, a lot of housing information. And you're looking at both native and foreign-born. So it's exciting to think of comparing data, right? I think that's the first thing we'd feel when we look at a table like this. Can I compare? So we are working with estimates from the American Community Survey, right? We don't have any more foreign-born data collected from the decennial census since the 2000 census. So 2010 and 2020, we don't have foreign-born data. So ACS is your source. So you're going to be having to deal with comparing estimates. So the challenge here is we have to work with a margin of errors. And let me give you an example just to understand, a concrete example that I had to work on. There is this fight on the Brazilian community. Which state has the largest community of Brazilians? Is it Massachusetts or Florida? So every year I was getting contacted by, whether it was the embassy, it was the Brazilian media, like, which state has more Brazilians? And that was important for businesses too, so they could direct their marketing and open more businesses. And with the margin of error, it was really hard to tell because for a while it seemed like it was Massachusetts, but when you are analyzing and really running a test to know if the difference was statistical significant from any errors, I told them we can't claim one versus the other. We just can't because I have to run a statistical significant test to tell me if that difference is real within the margin of error that I can claim one versus the other. So that's something you have to keep in mind. And more recently, Florida surpassed Massachusetts, and with the margin of error and all, now I can calculate statistical significance, and Florida is holding, you know, the title for the largest Brazilian community, and Massachusetts had that for so many years. But when it comes to statistical significance, and even working with aggregating data and calculating margin of error, that's, you know, you think, oh, it's the work of a statistician. Well, there's a lot of formulas involved, and honestly, I don't remember any of them by heart. So one way I told you in the beginning I want to share with you, and I'm not going to be showing now, but we're going to upload within the recorded file of this webinar. It's a Excel spreadsheet that's enabled. It's what I use to calculate statistical significance. And it's as simple as you add the margin of error from one column, the margin of error from another column, the estimate and the estimate, press enter, and it will tell you if it is statistical significant. Because if it is, you can claim that one is greater than the other. So we will share the resource with you. You will be able to download from Census Academy when we post the recorded webinar. Just give us time because our wonderful facilitation team will get the recorded there for you within, let's say, 30 days. Usually earlier than that, but we give ourselves some time. But it's a great resource. You should definitely go there and download. So I just want to mention this in this table because that's the tendency here. You really wanted to compare and be able to claim things. So let's claim the right way with the right statistical analysis. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to show you something that's not directly foreign-born. So everyone working foreign-born community usually wants to know language. Can our foreign-born community speak English? Are they speaking a language other than English at home? If I'm targeting that community, should my ad be in Spanish? Should it be in Russian? This is what we're going to do right now. I'm going to go to the filter. I am going to just delete foreign-born. So if I did it from my search bar, I have to delete from the search bar. Click search again. Now it's all clear. I'm just minimize this. Let me see if my find a filter box is working. Now it is. Here we go. Language. I'm just going to type language here. My first option is language spoken at home. You're good. That's what you want. Just throw it in your shopping cart right here. And let's see the results we got from shopping for this product. So we have a variety of tables, and be my guest to check them out. But I have, again, done my work here, and there's only one table that will give you detailed language, like really break it down for you. And this is the D16001. So again, save this table ID in a note if you care for this type of data, because this is your table. So let me show you what it looks like. So this is the only table that's going to break down in many different languages. Aside from this table, all you're going to get is whether they speak Spanish, Indo-European languages, some other languages. This one will give you a variety of languages here that you can look at. Not only that, but the ability to speak English, it's right here. Keep in mind that because we call it a sensitive table, you could identify groups. It's not going to be available for every single small geographic area. So if I throw a few cities and towns here, I may get this table from a 1-year estimate or a 5-year estimate. But if you don't have a lot of people speaking a language other than English in a given geography, we may suppress and you may not see. So let's say you enter 10 cities and towns there, and you can only get data for 8. Which it means is the data was suppressed for the last 2 cities and towns because the population speaking a language, a foreign language, is so small that we cannot give you that data because there is a risk to the confidentiality. So that's something you need to understand with some of these tables we're looking at today. But if not, if you can get it, it's a really cool table. I love mapping this table. You can use the mapping feature here. Again, it's not the purpose today of teaching you how to map, but something I really enjoy. Like, for instance, again, the Brazilian community, I've mapped persons speaking Portuguese who couldn't speak English very well throughout the country for them, which was very neat. Let me go back to my filter, and I am going to delete language spoken at home, which now you can delete from here because you use this filter. So again, there's so many ways to go about this. Let's dive into the topic ancestry. So I'm going to go to the find a filter instead of typing on the search box, and I'm just going to type ancestry. Okay. First thing it shows is ancestry. That's what you want. We're not talking about detailed ancestry here, just the concept of ancestry. Right away, you want to select that. We have a variety of results right here for you. And there are 3 results I want to bring to your attention because those are the primary tables. You already look at the PO2 and you remember there was a list of ancestry there, but how can we go into more detailed ancestry? So we have a single ancestry reported, multiple ancestry reported, and there's just a simple table called people reporting ancestry. How do I know? And then you have ancestry, right? Which one do I want? You would have to go in and check them, but let me break it down a little bit for you here. The ancestry is just very basic. It doesn't break down. It's just how many people reported a general ancestry or multiple ancestry or a single ancestry. These 3 tables are really special here. The single ancestry are for everyone who only wrote a single ancestry on that question that Monica showed you. Say, what's your ancestry? And you can answer so many responses there. Those who only wrote one thing get tabulated right here. So people with 1 ancestry. Second table, people with multiple ancestry. Here we're tabulating everyone who said they had more than 1. So 2 or more got tabulated here. So the people who only wrote 1 single are not included here. So you're going to see different numbers. But then when you come to people reporting ancestry, let me open that table for you to give you a better idea. There we go. So all the tables will have the same ancestry listed. The difference is with this one, you're going to get combined. Those who reported they're just Albanian, or those who reported I'm Albanian, but I'm also Egyptian. So multiple ancestries will be reported here as well as single ancestry. So you're going to have duplication. Yeah, if someone reported that they are Lebanese and also Cambodian, they're going to get a score in each one of them, right? So this is what this table means for you. So just want to break it down to make it easy for you when you're looking at ancestry tables, but they are all showing the same listed ancestry here. And you'll keep me saying and talking about Brazilians. Of course, you've noted my accent at this time. And I am foreign born from Brazil. also Brazilian by ancestry. So generally, when I was looking at microdata from persons who answer Brazilian as the ancestry, they also tend to answer Italian and Portuguese. You'll see that very often in their answers. So there will be like a lot of people reporting multiple ancestries, which is very neat. I'm going to go back to filter, and now I have two last examples for you, which I find to be very rich and where probably most of you want to get to. It's how can I look at a particular group, right? I want information on a group. So I have Massachusetts here. Just for fun, let me add, I'm going to add Florida here. I was talking earlier about the Florida-Massachusetts war about Brazilians. And so let's go to that. So now, let's say I want to look, I got this question from the Brazilian embassy saying, how big is the Brazilian community? Look, Brazilian community. When you talk about that, you're talking about people who possibly were born in Brazil, right? That's their place of birth, but possibly were born here of Brazilian parents. They could be second, third, fourth generations of Brazilians. So that makes up the Brazilian community. I just, check if that's the definition they're looking for. And if they said yes, so I knew they were looking for data based on ancestry, right? So when I go to the filter in this case, I can start typing, let's say, just the beginning of the name. I'm not going to go for the country or the ancestry yet, because when I start typing the name of the country, it gives me both options. When it says the name of the country, you may remember this from Monica reviewing the questions with you. The place of birth, where you're born, generates the data that goes with the country name. So anyone who said I was born in a different country, their data is under the country name. Everyone who said I'm of this ancestry, this is where you find the ancestry data. So if they want to know the Brazilian community, I would look at a profile of Brazilians. That's the ancestry. And now we are back to that table I said at the beginning. It's really cool that we look at the full foreign-born profile, which is the F02001. Let me show you what that looks like. So now I have Florida, Massachusetts, Brazilian and Brazilian. Again, don't assume these are just immigrants. It's not. There's Brazilians born in the U.S., second, third, fourth generations here. And you can probably tell why the war is out there. Look at the margin of error. It makes it really tight for those two states. But what they're getting here is a profile, a really long profile with the same characteristics we saw on the DPO2 on the table that's native versus foreign-born, but now is available for a specific ancestry group. If I keep going down, you see the economic characteristics, the housing characteristics, all here. Let me drop down the data stats menu here for you. You see that these tables are only available for 1 year estimate. What does it mean for you? And this is the limitation. This is when I'm sorry to burst your bubble, but it means that you can only see this level of detail if that population, that universe, is of 65,000 people or more in a given area. So if I add every state in the United States here for the Brazilian ancestry, for this level of detail, I can only see Florida and Massachusetts, because in every of the other states, there are less than 65,000 Brazilians. So that's the limitation that you're going to get. Even though Florida has more than 65,000 people total, your universe of Brazilians has to be more than 65,000 to show the data for this specific detailed group tables. So let me go back to the filter and show you something else here on the products. You're going to notice that for the ancestry, we also have detailed tables, individual detailed tables, right? And you can keep going. You could even go to topics and say income. Show me a table related to income here or to housing. So let me click on one of these tables to show you what this means. So these tables go back to 2015. That's the only time when we release them. These tables are the only ones that can go below the 65,000 threshold. Yes, they're old in a lot of ways. Now we're talking a lot of years ago, but since then we have not released them. So if I get a question about the Brazilian population in a track area or a small town, if I go to this data set, I can still see it. It's still available, this level of detail. So it's old, but I can work my way from there and let the organization look at more recent data from different aspects and try to come up with their understanding of their population. but I just want to give you this in case you really need to look at data by ancestry group for a very small area. Let's say you're searching the Ukrainian community and you want to know a lot of detail for a particular area, you may have to go back to this special data set that we released in 2015, right? So I'm going to delete the ancestry from here. And now I'm going to search by just foreign-born. I just want to look at a immigrant population. Actually, I've given you enough Brazil here. Let me look at Mexico. That was our #1 country, right? So if you want to look at immigrants born in Mexico, again, not the Mexican community, not by ancestry, not by race or Hispanic origin, we are going to check Mexico, and you're going to get the same profile. And now you can see for persons born in Mexico, so Mexican immigrants, you can see those same characteristics throughout. So again, just a recap, because I know I went through a lot with you. We went to first the DPO2. I have them all open here for you. We went to the DPO2, which gives you information for any area down to the tract level for, you know, overall foreign born, overall ancestry, whether they're citizens or not, all of that. Then we went into the table looking at native versus foreign born. Again, this is the table ID. After that, and we talked a little bit about comparing. After that, we looked at the language table, which is not shown here for some reason. Let me see. Should be. I left them all open for you. No, it went straight to the ancestry. But then we look into the language table. Remember the B16001. Then we look at ancestry, whether it was single, multiple, or reported ancestry. And last, we went into looking at specific groups by searching by ancestry name or by place of birth, by country name. So I'm talking here and keep talking about table IDs. Let me just search for the B16 to show you how the table ID works. B16001. So by typing a table ID, I can get that table right away. That's the reason why I keep those table IDs near and dear to my heart in a note on my phone. Okay? I hope you found this helpful. I know it's very fast, but hopefully with the recording, you can rewatch this and really follow step by step. Now, if you have any questions, I would defer to our folks who are very helpful, Noemi and Joe, to let us know if you have questions for us that we need to answer right now. Thank you.
Okay, this is Joe. Hello, everyone. Alexandra, we have a question. If you could explain a little bit more detail about the Middle Eastern and North African population, and what is the latest information about how they fit into the race category?
Hi, thanks for the question. I have to say that it's the race category for we call MENA is not my expertise right now. I work more with foreign-born and ancestry data, so we would have to get a expert on the MENA category to get back to that question, and we can definitely do that. I just don't want to go beyond, my limited knowledge in that category, because the Middle Eastern that you're talking about is of a race category, which is not what we're covering today. But if you want to look at populations that were born in the Middle East by place of birth, then you just have to type the name of the country, or by ancestry, like I said, you can just type the name of the ancestry that you can find. As far as race, I don't have the extensive knowledge right now to answer that, but we'll get back to you. So Kim Brown, I know you're taking care of those questions that we want to send to topic experts, and we can get an answer to you. Okay.
Okay, thank you. A second question is there a way to get data on the Jewish population?
The Jewish population. So we will be able to find data by place of birth. And by ancestry, I have not checked myself, but I know, let me share my screen again with you, at least find, hold on. I know place of birth I have looked at. And it's just a matter of trying here. Let me delete this. I believe I have had that question in the past, but it's probably been so long. Let me go to the filter result. I know by place of birth, I could Oh, it's not even finding that. So I'll have to do my own research and get back to you about that, because even in place of birth, it's not showing. So Kim Brown, take a note of that one too, but you can send that one to me because I'm going to have to do more digging. So I don't want to do it in front of everybody else because you guys will be waiting for me to dig into this answer. But I can look at that separately. Okay, Joe, do you have anything else that I could answer on spot?
Yes, I have one more. Someone asked if you could, for the Venezuelan population, if that's available for the U.S., Florida, and Miami.
Okay, we can look at those who were foreign-born from Venezuela, the immigrants, or we could look at the Ancestry. So
I think she was referring to Ancestry.
Ancestry, what are the geographies?
U.S., Florida, and Miami.
Okay, U.S., Florida, and then you want to go to the city level. U.S., yes. We know it will be available. Likely, we're going to be available to find for Florida if there's more than 65,000 persons who said their ancestry. Let me go to Florida. And next, let me check Miami here for you, please. I clicked on place because it's in Florida. However, if you guys are looking at cities and towns in the Northeast, don't click on place. Click on county subdivision. That's how we call our cities and towns in the Northeast. So in Florida, let me look at Miami. Like I said, the only way of knowing is by looking at the data. If it's, we're going to go for a long list here until we get to M. And try to type, trying to type at M, but not going. Miami. While I'm doing this, I just ask you all to take a little time to answer, provide feedback. I'll really appreciate if someone can share the feedback link through the chat. That will be very helpful. So you guys can start providing feedback. It helps me, helps Monica, it helps all colleagues know if we're doing a good job or improve our services. So here it is. Let's see what's going to show. So I have Venezuelan, U.S., Florida, Miami. We go to the table. Let's see what surprises waits for us there. So we can get for the state, the United States, Miami, which means the number of people who said they are of Venezuelan ancestry is not over 65,000 in Miami city boundary itself. So you wouldn't be able to see it from Miami. So you would stay within the U.S. and the state of Florida. Hope this answered the question. Okay. Any other question?
Just one more easy question. It says, did you say that the ACS does not get down to the block and tract level?
The ACS goes down to the tract levels. That's the smallest geographic area you can get data from the ACS. However, because it's a very small area with an average population between 3,000 and 8,000, optimum size 4,000 people, tables that are very detailed, like those detailed profiles of the Brazilians, of the Venezuelans, those tables would not be available for the tract level. But if you try the 2015 data set I show you, you can get to very small geographic areas with that one, but that's the only one. All the other tables for detailed groups, the specific group, you would have, you wouldn't be able to see it down to that level. But the DPO2, you can go to that level. The native versus foreign-born table, you can go down to the tract level as well.
Another question came in. Can you get aggregated data for the foreign-born persons from several countries?
So there's only two ways of doing that. First is downloading a table that shows, let me show you. Actually, I didn't show you guys this table. If anyone's hanging around, it's one of my favorites too, and I just did not show you. I'm going to do it for the U.S. here. It's called B05006. It's the foreign-born by place of birth. This table is actually where Monica generated that poll that we gave you. Take note, 05006. This is the table that will show you the country, the foreign-born population by every country here. It's very detailed. So you don't have a table that aggregates it for you, but let's say here in South Central Asia, right? Let's say you want to know the total will give you, but then you want to add South Central Asia with Southeast Asia, or just maybe a few countries from Southeast with some from South Central. You would have to use the Excel spreadsheet that I'm going to share with you guys to calculate the aggregated data, which basically is you're going to enter the estimate for each of the groups, and then you're going to enter the margin of error and press enter, and it's going to give you the aggregated number and the new margin of error. So that's how you're going to have to aggregate yourself if you want to combine all these groups together. But if you want to look at individual groups, this is a fantastic table to see that. I hope that was, answer your question.
Thank you, Alexandra. We're right on the top of the hour, so we're going to go ahead and close out the webinar. So thank you very much to Monica and Alexandra for this excellent presentation. Before we conclude, I'd like to thank everyone who played a role in today's webinar. And also, of course, thank you to you, the audience, for spending your time with us this afternoon. I'd like to strongly encourage that you note the link in the chat for the survey that we're asking you to complete on how we're doing. We very much would like to hear your feedback. Please take the moment to fill it out at your earliest convenience. We want to remind you that we have a webinar coming up Thursday, April 7th at 2 p.m. It's the application programming interface. This brings us to a close, so we thank you again and hope you have a great afternoon.
This concludes today's webinar. Thank you for your participation. You may disconnect at this time.